why don't you go ahead and take it away, Ben?
Alright, first question. What does cannabis mean to you?
My kids, my family, my life. It completely changed how I can function on a day-to-day basis. It's not my savior.
Okay, I have a question for you. What age do you believe that people should be able to walk into a dispensary and use cannabis products? What age do you think it's good for you?
What age?
Yeah.
I don't think it's more about age. I don't think that it necessarily has any benefits unless you, like, if you're just a regular person without a condition. So I don't think there should be an age. I think if a child has a condition and it would help them, I think that they should be able to access medical cannabis. Same with an adult. So I don't think you should put an age on it. And that's why I'm fighting against the commercialization of marijuana, which means people over 21 are able to access cannabis for recreational use. I don't think that's good. I think that it should be available to anyone who needs it for a medical purpose, instead of just like an age that you say, if you're at this age, you can get cannabis.
What are your views on the current cannabis laws?
So there are two current cannabis laws that stand out. One is medical cannabis, which means that you can get a medical cannabis card and you can access medical cannabis at a dispensary like this. The other is called decriminalization, and that means that you can possess up to 10 grams of cannabis and not get arrested. You'll just get a ticket instead. I support both of those laws, both medical cannabis and decriminalization. I also support expanding that to expungement of records for prior cannabis convictions. So I like the current state of our laws that we have here. I don't think we should expand that to commercialize cannabis to allow it for recreational use.
I have a question for you. If someone needs a green card, where can you go and get it?
If someone needs a cannabis card?
Yeah.
It's a two-step process. The patient first needs to contact their physician. Unfortunately, a lot of physicians aren't necessarily. You know what? I'm going to let Dan answer that question because Dan went through the process.
Yeah, because I have a disease called CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome. There's a pain level, like the McGill pain index. There is nothing higher than the disease I have. Like, it's above childbirth, kidney stones, losing a limb. There's nothing higher. And so the only relief I would get would be, prior to this, was some type of opioid, whether it be Norco, Percocet, morphine, OxyContin, whatever it may be. So it took me probably a dozen or so doctors to find one that didn't want to just simply write out a script and, give me 90 Percocet a month. And that's the hard part, is that there's so many doctors out there that I believe are so fearful of the recreational aspect of it, where they think, oh, well, just anybody's going to go in and get it, and then they're just going to go smoke it, and they're going to, do whatever. But the industry is so much different now. I mean, there's a reason why it's medical cannabis and not just a bag of weed or a bag of pot or marijuana, whatever it may be. I mean, this is as legit and even more so than 90% of the doctors out there, because those doctors are selling you opioids because they're getting money from big pharma. So pharmaceutical companies are throwing in tons of cash for people that are on, like, Lyrica, Norco, Percocet. The makers of OxyContin right now are supposedly in the process of filing bankruptcy because they've seen their use of patients using it drop significantly. And as Joe said, I do work here, so the day that the opioid law came into effect here, we can get a card. It was amazing, the conversations that I was having with some people in regards to any opioid you take, you're going to be cloudy, you're going to be hazy, you're not going to be your full self. But the problem is, you think you're your full self. Like, one of the most important moments of the last 10, 12 years of my life was when I have a spinal cord stimulator implanted right now for my CRPS. I was able to get off the opioids right away from that. This was a good 10 years ago. And my ex-mother-in-law said to me, "Wow, Dan, you're back." And I'm like, "Where was I?" She's like, "You've been a shell of yourself the last 3 years or so. And you don't, when you're on those, you don't realize it." And I've always had very strong willpower. Like, if I want to quit something, I just do it. But sadly, a lot of people out there don't have that. And so I was able to get off opioids within 2 days of having the implant put in, Then, as the CRPS spread, that's when I knew I had to do something else because I just didn't want to be medicated. And that's when I found medical cannabis and PDI and just the environment here. It was better than any doctor's office. They were more knowledgeable not only about medical cannabis, but also about all the prescriptions that I was taking. And I was having to take Ambien to sleep. Now I was able to get off Ambien and I take part of a chocolate bar. So Ambien is known to give people hallucinations. It's known where individuals will get in their car and drive somewhere and not even realize it. I take a little bite of a chocolate bar and I'm asleep and I'm not driving anywhere. I'm not doing anything.
Can you become addicted to cannabis, and how are the withdrawals from it?
I've not seen any research supporting that you can become addicted to it. I think you can become addicted to anything. I mean, you can become addicted to cans of pop, Skittles, Mountain Dew, whatever it may be. It's determined on how you use it and how you either don't abuse it or abuse it.
So getting back to your question, how do you go about getting, you say a green card?
Oh, whatever, the
It's a medical cannabis
medical
card.
cannabis as well.
Yeah, it looks something like this, but basically the patient goes to their doctor, the doctor fills out a physician certification form, the doctor indicates what their qualifying condition is, the patient's information, and then they sign it. And then they hand it back to the patient. And then the patient goes to a place like this, and we will help them process everything else that they need. They need to supply a proof of agent identity, a proof of residency, and then pay a fee to the state of Illinois. And this can be done online. In the past, it was taking up to 3 to 4 months to get a medical cannabis
It
card.
took me 97 days. From
Yes.
the day I filled it out to the day I actually got my card. 97
Now, think
days.
about that.
Right.
If you go to a doctor and you get a prescription, and the doctor says, well, you can't walk into the pharmacy for 90 days to fill this prescription, that's not a good idea. So, but fortunately, things changed, and now people can get their medical cannabis card within 24 hours of doing the online process. The mail process is still 3 to 4 months, but the state recognized that was an issue, and now there's an online process.
Okay, I have a question for all of you guys.
Okay.
If marijuana is not the gateway drug, what is it?
Marijuana being a gateway drug?
Yeah, if it's not a marijuana, what do you think it is?
What would be the gateway drug to get peer pressure?
Peer pressure.
Alcohol. I'd say peer pressure is the big one. I know plenty of individuals when I was back in college 20 years ago that smoked marijuana and didn't do anything else. I think those were scare tactics that they tried doing in the Reagan era. We're going to come hit you hard and we're going to say that you're now going to do this, 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 and this. Well, and I always pose this to both my my older kids that, listen, if you're at a party and somebody's offering you alcohol, I'm like, don't take it. I'm like, if you're at a party and offering you marijuana, don't take it. I'm like, you have the right to say no. You have the right to refuse it. I think what starts as a gateway drug is just somebody's A, possible addictive personality, and B, just what might be going on psychologically or environmentally in their home, in their work, whatever it may be. There's a lot of other things that I don't believe our state, our country looks at in regards to what does gateway really mean? Like, what is it? Like, I really don't know many people that started smoking or taking edibles or whatever it may be and now are on LSD or mushrooms or anything else like that.
A lot of people refer to cannabis as an exit drug rather than a gateway drug, because we're actually seeing patients getting off of opioids. There was a study that came out at the time. There was 13 states that had medical cannabis laws. There was a 25% reduction in opioid use and death in those states. It's a fact.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to.
And we have an opioid alternative program here, and I think the Illinois regulators are looking for a reduction in opioid use and death in Illinois as a result of this program.
I have a question for you. How do people usually feel like their first time ever coming to a dispensary?
That's a great question. We've had a lot of patients that have gone to other dispensaries. In fact, I had a doctor in here yesterday whose patient went to a dispensary in Chicago. this patient, very smart, he's 61, he's a lawyer. He was totally intimidated. He walked into this dispensary, he wasn't given a whole lot of help. He was given a menu, what do you want? But some dispensaries, other dispensaries are different. There's patient care specialists that help out. We probably have the model for the best in class of what that is.
Yeah, this is the fillet of the world of medical cannabis. This dispensary right here. Every dispensary should follow the model that is presented here.
But unfortunately, the state of Illinois didn't see any value in having pharmacists or healthcare professionals in dispensaries, and so, but there's other states that do have pharmacist mandates, and so I was pushing for that, didn't happen, but that was still my vision for this place.
Do you mind if I answer your previous question? I think it was on the gateway drug. So I think there are two paths to becoming an opioid addict. One is where you get it prescribed by a doctor. You get opioids prescribed by a doctor, and you get addicted to those opioids. And then many of those patients may end up coming here to a medical cannabis dispensary, and they are able to get off opioids. The other path, this is the one that's common in my community and many communities around here, is the way it's primarily for kids who aren't prescribed opioids. A lot of times they happen to start with cannabis, using it with their friends, and they'll move on to opioids. Now, the great majority of kids who use cannabis will never move on to opioids. However, of those that did move on to opioids, kids that are addicted to opioids, many of them did start with cannabis. So to say it's a gateway drug, that doesn't really mean that if you're using cannabis, you're going to start using opioids. It means that if you're a kid and you can fight peer pressure and not start using cannabis, you are much less likely to start using opioids in the future, because a lot of kids who start using opioids started with cannabis. They thought, this isn't as bad for me as opioids. No, I would never use opioids. When in fact, they already started giving into peer pressure by using cannabis, and down the line they found themselves using opioids. So if you're a kid and you cannot use cannabis, you're keeping yourself off a path of potential opioid use in the future.
But the one thing that you're failing to acknowledge there is that a lot of these students that are on opioids, it doesn't matter whether or not they were on cannabis prior, is that their parents have opioid scripts for either a surgery or something like that, and so they get them from their parents' medicine cabinets. There's been numerous studies, there's been numerous Dateline specials in regards to the majority of these kids are getting it from their parents, because you can't just simply go to a street corner in Highland Park, Buffalo Grove, and have a guy peddling Norco or Percocet. I mean, typically, especially now with the crackdown on it, you have to have prescriptions are looked at much more thoroughly. Doctors are becoming a little more skittish in regards to how much they're prescribing. I had a good friend that had shoulder surgery and got prescribed like 320 pills, and there was absolutely no reason that he needed that many. But that was like the legal limit at the time, and so that's what it was.
And to your point, there was a 60 Minutes show on a couple of weeks ago, and there's a father and son from China that have a laboratory, and they were talking about the opioid epidemic, and they were talking about fentanyl. They have this laboratory, and they had 40 websites in the U.S. The U.S. The FBI were investigating these guys for 10 years, and they shut down as many of these websites as they could. But if you wanted to go online and order...
China is the number one.
Yes, if you want to go online and order fentanyl or anything, you can get it. I mean, it's that easy.
Do you think cannabis are good for the states?
Do I think it's
Like
good
all
for the
50
states?
states?
All 50. Well, here's the thing. We have a federal government that's backwards. Our neighbors to the north have legalized it. Our neighbors to the south are about to. The U.S. is behind. Now, what we'd love to do is have it legalized for the purpose of being able to study it more, because that's where the science can really be beneficial. Why does one cancer patient's tumors shrink and another one, they perish? So these are the things that we need to understand. So legalized in all 50 states, I think the idea here is not necessarily to legalize it in all 50 states, but at least take it off of Schedule 1 so it can be studied.
I'm guessing you sell CBD in here, right?
Well, we have cannabis products that have CBD in it, yes.
What do you think some of the benefits of CBD are?
There's multiple benefits of CBD. It can help with pain, with sleep, it's anti-inflammatory and neuroprotective. It also can, when combined with THC, can minimize the untoward side effects of too much THC. It can help with sleep, it can help with anxiety, it can help with a lot of different things. Now, but the problem is, CBD from hemp is a lot different than CBD from the cannabis plant.
What?
Hemp is a big industrial plant, it has CBD in it, it's got nothing else.
63.
So when someone gets CBD from CVS or the gas station or wherever, or GNC, it's CBD from hemp, and it doesn't contain all the other cannabinoids, flavonoids, and terpenes that come in the cannabis products that we have here at the dispensary.
What?
There's a lot more to
I'm sure I'm
cannabis that's at a dispensary. It's a more robust CBD product.
Is there any side effects of taking CBD?
Sure. There could be, if you take too much, it can cause a headache. But there's no known overdose deaths from CBD or from THC in the human race, ever.
All right, well, thank you. That's all the questions I had today. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
thank you.
Thank you, Ben.